Hi, I'm Larry Richardson and welcome to Zeniors.com Cooking. Today we're going to make a very simple vegetarian omelet that's delicious, nutritious, and really not that hard to make. So why don't you follow along? Now the Zeniors omelet for two is quite basic. It requires a red pepper, a green bell pepper, an onion of your choice. I prefer the Vidalia onions because they're very sweet, and one jalapeno, which is completely optional. The jalapeno will definitely give it that southwestern taste, but if you don't like jalapenos, do not add this because it will make the omelet very hot. You also need 4 eggs, 2 teaspoons of butter, and a quarter cup of cheese. You can either use an Italian blend like I have here, or you can go with a Mexican blend, which will add a totally different taste and probably be more in keeping with that Tex-Mex theme. So the first thing we have to do, and the part that probably takes the most time, is the prep work. Make sure to have everything cut up before we start cooking. So with that in mind, let's get started. So here we go with the bell pepper. Now what I love about bell peppers is that they're extremely good for you, and you know, they taste great, especially when you cook them down. You give them a little bit of a saute action. Now, some people like to cut their peppers very thick. They like that chunky feel in their mouths. I'm one who likes the peppers, the onions, and the jalapeno cut very fine. I think that it reminds me a little bit of pizzas that I used to have when I grew up in the Northeast. So we'll go through and we'll get this all cut up, and then we will get going with the eggs. Now you'll notice in the cutting process that I'm not using all of the pepper. I'm probably using a little bit, probably just a little bit more than a quarter of the pepper and about a quarter of the onion and the jalapeno. Now there's one point that I want to make here. If you have contact lenses or you have anything, any reason to put your fingers near your eyes, make sure to put on a rubber glove because I have contact lenses and I can guarantee you I just chop the cap off of that pepper, and when I go to take my lenses out later, I am in big trouble. There's going to be a lot of crying going on. So try to have some of these rubber gloves. They sell in bulk at different pharmacies or some of the, oh heck, you might even find them over at a hardware store. So try to have some of these on hand because there's some ingredients that you really don't want to touch all that much. There we go. That pretty much does it for the chopping. But what I'd like to do is take out my measuring cup, and then I can give you a better idea of how much of this pepper and onion mix that I actually use in the omelet. I can already tell that I've made a little bit too much. These are very large peppers, so maybe I should have gone with pretty much an exact measure of a quarter of each. So just based on the cup measure, and I'm trying to take a mix of the whole part of the pepper mix. Just based on this, I really think about a cup of it will be enough for the omelets. Now note that I'm trying to clean up as much of the jalapeno as I can because I really like my omelets hot. That Southwest taste is delicious to me. So we'll aim for a cup of this mix, which I'll tell you, there's an awful lot of vegetable in here. There's a lot of vitamins, a lot of roughage, and most of all, and thank goodness, a lot of flavor. So let's set this aside for the moment. And now I'll be able to take these gloves off and still try to be careful where I put my fingers because I did touch that cap earlier. So I'm going to set that over there. And let's see, I'm going to move some of this pepper mix aside. Now I can guarantee you this pepper mix will be used on pizzas or on some more omelets this weekend, or I may even throw it into a spaghetti sauce, but none of this goes to waste. So again, if you want to get a more exact measure and you want to come out to a cup, make sure that with these larger peppers you take a quarter of the pepper. Now we're up to the eggs. Now when I break the eggs, I like to do it away from everything else because eggs, as everybody knows, do have the potential to have a salmonella issue. So I did rinse these eggs off before I put them out for the show, and now I'm just going to crack the eggs I'm going to put them into that glass bowl, and then we're going to whisk it up. Now, you may notice that none of what I'm doing is particularly artful compared to the Rachel Rays and the other cooks that you see on TV. I am truly a journeyman cook who enjoys cooking to no end, but when it comes to the artistry of breaking eggs and slicing and dicing, the best I can do is not drop it on the floor and not cut off one of my fingers. So we're going to set all of this aside as we move on. That's 4 eggs for 2 people, a cup of vegetables. So hold on for one moment, I'm going to wash my hands. Now, I am a huge believer in hand washing in the kitchen and making sure that none of the utensils that I'm going to use to make this dish that come in contact with the egg are used with anything else in the kitchen. Cross-contamination can be a huge problem. So we have to be really careful when it comes to how we handle these foods. So I'm going to add, at this point, let's see, we're going to add a tablespoon of water to the eggs. Now what this does, this tablespoon of water does, is it helps them to fluff up when we're cooking the omelet itself. So 1 tablespoon of water added into that mix, and I'm moving the butter away from it as I'm about to whisk. Let's see, here's our whisk. Now the whisk will mix it up really well. This will give it a nice, even consistency. The next step in cooking our omelet is to turn on the stove. Now I have the stove on medium with this small pan so that we can cook our vegetables, so we can saute them before we put them in the omelet. I also have this large pan put on about just below medium. I'd say if you have a stove that's graded between on and medium and it's graded by 2s, I put this on 4, so 4 is a good setting. So just a little bit below medium because I don't want it to cook too fast, because you don't want to burn the eggs while all of the other parts, including the cheese, are melting into the omelet. So the first thing we have to do in the cooking is make sure to turn the stove on, and the next part is to add some butter to the saute pan. Now the butter is just meant to keep the whole thing a little bit moist, to keep the vegetables from sticking, and you can see that I'm throwing those in now, and this is going to be kind of a quick saute. And let's see, let's get our spatula ready. Now I'm using a separate spatula for this saute process than I am to make the omelet itself. For the omelet itself, I'm going to need a spatula that's wide enough to flip the eggs when they're ready. So let's just go with our saute. Now the basic point of sauteing is not to cook these so that they're so soft that they just fall apart in my fingers. You really want them to have a little bit of bite to them. You want to get them so that, I'd say the onion is just starting to look a little bit clear. Now again, if your taste is to have them to the point where the onion, you can see through it and the whole thing just collapses when you eat it, you're certainly welcome to do that. But to my taste, I like it to have a little, just a slight little bit of crunch to it. Okay, so it's taken about 3 minutes for the onions, peppers, and jalapeno mix to start to turn translucent. At that point, I'm going to take it off the stove, turn the stove off, leave that aside, and now we're going to focus on the egg mixture. Now, a lot of people are intimidating making omelets. They think that the egg mixture is going to be very difficult to work with, but actually, if you just follow a few simple instructions, it's really not that bad. Okay, now it's time to cook the egg mixture that we will envelop the peppers in. The first thing you want to do is preheat your stove. Put your stove just a little bit above low, maybe halfway to medium, and preheat it for about 5 minutes just so that it's evenly heated. You want to make sure that the egg mixture itself is evenly heated. Then take your teaspoon of butter, and maybe a little bit of the butter that's left over from the vegetables, throw that into the pan, and spread it around with the spatula that you're going to use for the egg mixture. Now, I'm not using the spatula that I had put the peppers in when I was sauteing. Okay, so now here we go. We were mixing up all the butter, and there we go. So it's nice and evenly spread. And now I'm going to give the eggs another little quick whisk. And now you'll see that the egg mixture, because I'm using 4 eggs, will evenly spread out over this large pan, which is perfect when you're making an omelet for 2 people. So the egg mixture is getting nice and warm. Now I'm going to wait until I can see that the egg mixture is cooked on the bottom, and then you're going to see that I will start to add the pepper mixture and the cheese. Now the reason that I wait for the egg mixture to cook a little bit is so that it will have a floor to it on the pan. That way when I add the peppers, they won't just fall right through to the bottom and get sizzled by this pan. So now I'm going to add the pepper mix, and I'm putting it all on this half of the omelet. Okay, so there's the pepper mix. Now I'm going to spread that out a little bit. There we go. Now we have that all done, and now I'm going to take the cheese and put that on the other half of the omelet. Now again, this is only a quarter cup of cheese. I recommend a quarter cup of cheese because it will give you the flavor that you want with an omelet without all the fat and calories. So the first time you make it, see if you can't stay with a quarter cup of cheese, which divided between two people is very little fat, very little cholesterol, and not really that many calories. Now what we're going to do at this point to make sure that everything cooks evenly is we're going to cover the large pan. This will give the cheese a chance to melt, and it will also help to reheat the pepper mixture a little bit too. Now that cover is going to stay on, I would say, for about 2 minutes. Oh boy, thank goodness for time lapse. So that's about 2 to 3 minutes, and we take the cover off, and you can see our omelet has puffed up, and now it's ready for probably the only tricky move you have to do in all of this, and one that I hope works for me this week, is prying your spatula underneath the cheesy side and then flipping it over. There we go. Now, some people like their omelet with a little bit of crisp to it. Normally, I probably would have left this on for maybe a half a minute less. So now what I'm going to do is take the omelet, since it's being made for 2 people, and cut it in half with the spatula. And what I'll do is take a piece of the omelet and put it on a plate. There we go. Now isn't that a fine presentation? So there you go, a very basic vegetable omelet that you can serve with bread, grits, I don't know, whatever you like. You have some toast with it. But you can even put some hot sauce on it, but I recommend you taste the jalapenos first. So there you have it, a very basic, delicious, and nutritious omelet that really was not all that hard to make. So please make it this weekend, visit Zeniers.com, and let me know what you think. I'm Larry Richardson for Zeniers.com Cooking.